welcome back, and what a treat we've got this afternoon. I'm speaking with the wonderful Carmen Lyndley. Now, Carmen, many people might know her from when she had Women in Mind in Shrewsbury, this wonderful centre that was one of the pioneers in holistic centres in Shrewsbury, and it had the lovely coffee shop as well at the top. But then she's went on and she's now director of the Health Habit, and she'll tell us more about that and what that work entails, which sounds really fascinating actually. So without further ado, welcome Carmen, and just warm congratulations on the birth of your new grandson. That's a bonus, isn't it?
It's wonderful. Number 4. Yeah. Thank you, June. Nice to see you.
And you. Now, Carmen, can I ask, where were you born? Were you born in Shropshire?
No, not at all. I probably tell by my accent. I was a Cheshire. I was born in Cheshire, but parents moved down to Kent, so I was brought up in Kent. Most of my childhood was in Kent. Yeah.
Whereabouts in Kent were you?
Couple of places, but around Sevenoaks. I don't know. Sevenoaks. Yeah.
The Garden of England, isn't it? That's honestly, what it's known as, isn't it? Gorgeous.
Totally, it's really beautiful. I mean, it's changed a lot since I was there a very long time ago, but yes, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
So you obviously went to school there. How was that for you? How did you enjoy being at school? What kind of child were you?
Well, my first school was great, but if I tell you that we were lucky enough, my father, his first teaching post was actually at a residential school for young boys. They would call it back in the day, I don't think it's PC now, but they were maladjusted young boys. And the school was situated in what would have been an old stately home, I suppose. So I was brought up in a cottage on this estate there, and the cottage was set into the wall of a Victorian kitchen garden. Okay.
Oh, lovely.
I could enter this secretly by going into our cellar and then getting up through the window and into this beautiful garden. So I think my love for gardening started then. So I was we were quite isolated. I suppose my playground, my back garden, literally stretched through acres of this private land that belonged to the school. So there were caves, there were lakes, there were all sorts of things. So my imagination and I could, just go wild, basically. But my brother and I really didn't see many friends because we were quite isolated. So my school life was lovely at first, but when we moved to my second primary school, I did get bullied quite a lot. So, and that followed through to secondary school as well. So it was a sad thing, but also, I did have this kind of, I suppose you might say at that point, the fairies were my friends, because I was just literally out there in the wild with, in nature. So, it was a funny start, but I was blessed on one side, but on the other side, I was quite bullied at times.
So how did you cope with that as a child? Did you try to ignore it, or did maybe somebody help? Did a teacher notice it, or did you just accept it and wait for the day you left?
I had to accept it. I became more shy, I suppose. I was very shy. I mean, up to the age of 17, 18, I was extremely shy. So, I accepted it. There wasn't anyone. Back in the day, I don't think there was that procedure where people helped so much with bullying. So, I just accepted it, really.
So at school, what did you excel at? What sort of subjects did you excel at? And when you left, did you go on to study anything, or did you go straight into the workplace?
Well, again, a different story, really. So my parents split up just as I was things were getting a bit dodgy as I was going through 11 plus, and then things went wrong there. And then they finally split up when I was about 17, and I found myself in a relationship which was equally well, it was violent, in a violent relationship, which lasted for 8 years. So my thoughts of further education, anything like that, because it was very kind of possessive relationship, well, they were out of the window. So by then I was in Gloucestershire, middle of nowhere, and so again I found solace in nature and gardening, and I studied with books. I just literally got all the books I needed. I was very much into health and nutrition, and so I just studied, and myself quietly in the wilds of Gloucestershire. So yeah.
Now that sounds like a horrendous relationship to have gone into at such a young age, after the bullying, and then get into a relationship with that violence. That you must have thought life was hell, after, was there any nice people out there?
Yeah, it was a funny thing. I remember somebody saying, it was actually a friend of my ex-husband, I remember him saying, why are you all so happy? Because he obviously must have known what was going on behind closed doors. I suppose most people did. But somehow I still managed to keep that side of me, safe, I suppose. And so it was okay. Well, it wasn't okay, but I managed to get through it. And I did escape, and I call it an escape.
So how did you do that? How did you do that? Because that would take a lot of strength, wouldn't it? I would imagine, as a young woman on your own, going through that, and then having to leave a relationship where maybe he was, a breadwinner or such, as maybe, or whatever, but takes a lot of courage to say, look, no more, accept no more. And you're saying escape, so I would imagine that was without his knowledge. You were going and you went.
I left with did I have to go and buy a toothbrush? I think I had to actually go and buy a toothbrush. Very dear friend looked after me. It was somebody who I wasn't supposed to have friends, but it was somebody who was kind of there for me. And she, I went to stay with her for a few days. I can't tell you how frightening it was one day when the postman posted some letters through a letterbox. I was thinking, oh no, who's come for me? But then I managed to get to Manchester, and I stayed with my grandmother. And she looked after me for a good few years while I was there, getting back on my feet. Trained as a physical fitness instructor, and I've started again, really. So really started building from there. So yeah.
So moving from, isolated locations such as Kent and then Gloucester, and then moving up to Manchester. Whoa, that's quite a leap, isn't it?
It sure was, yeah. My grandmother was slightly on the outskirts, what you'd call Greater Manchester, but when I was working, I was going into Manchester. And actually, I worked in Lewis's in the daytime, when it's gone now. And then I would run up to the train as soon as the store closed, and I'd go to my, it was a fitness studio in Stockport, so it was like a bit of a train journey. And I'd get there, change, and I'd start and I work till 10 o'clock at night in this brilliant place I absolutely loved, because it was all about fitness and health, So it was yes, it was very, very different, but I just loved it, enjoyed it. It was I still prefer, I have to say, I prefer my countryside, but it was just a change, and I loved it and did enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
And then from there, how did you end up in Shropshire?
I told you my parents had split, so mother had gone down south. My father was up here in Shropshire, and I'd come to visit, and he took me to Condover one day, and I was introduced to water skiing. And I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. So I'd come down every weekend just for, to water ski, and got a group of friends in Shropshire, and then moved down. And it was moving down that then I met my husband, who Paul, and had a family. We started a family. So really, that was another change, because there's so many changes, things, you know. And it's great, absolutely great. We moved into an old rectory, rambling old rectory at Stoke-on-Tern, massive place, renovated, rattled around for a short while, and then decided that perhaps we could use it for my business, as it were. He was off work. He worked quite hard, away quite a lot. I had 3 little children at the time, so I thought, well, let's, you know, if I'm going to work, let's work at home, and I can, you know, have the kids with me. And so I became guardian to a couple of children from Hong Kong at first. And then word spread. They all enjoyed themselves. So word got round at school, and then I'd have parent after parent calling from Hong Kong. Can my children, you know, can you be guardian to my children? I think I ended up with 15 children that I was actually guardian to.
So when you say guardian, what does that mean? What does that entail?
Well, yeah, it was parent in situ, I think they kind of translated it as. And so these children were going to Denstone College by the time there were 15 of them, plus friends. And we'd go and collect them for holidays and exit weekends. So, and literally they'd come and stay. And yeah, that was very interesting, because they did, as I say, they brought friends as well. And we were also looking at, we had children from other areas of the world, Thailand, America, France, Italy, you name it, kids that would come for the experience of, you know, England, for a couple of weeks. So they come on holiday. And I remember once in our kitchen, I had Thai, Chinese, Hong Kong, French, and our children, and they were, I just have this vivid memory of them all sat around my table, and the argo was this beautiful smell of brioche that I was making. We all just sat there waiting for their brioche, and it just got there, and all that brioche had just disappeared, you know. They were all just munching this, and it was just so lovely to see this cosmopolitan kitchen, you know, full of kids. You know, I suppose we were lucky enough to have some good land, so the kids, they'd play football outside, and we had true international football matches, you know, on our lawn.
Yeah, and I would imagine that was a wonderful experience for your kids as well, because they were learning about other cultures at a very young age, and they were learning firsthand rather than through a book or a film or something like that.
Yeah, it was absolutely marvellous experience. I remember Laura, actually, I'd gone to Laura's school and for one of her open evenings, and got to the French teacher, and she said, well, you must have gone to France an awful lot. She said, because Laura's French is so good. We'd never been to France at that stage, but it was because we were getting children coming to us from France, you know, and it was lovely. And I think this is so nice to say that my kids, you know, are so open to so many cultures and so many things, and it was all because they were visiting us, you know, which was lovely.
And then from that, obviously your kids would have been growing up and getting older. How did you get onto a more holistic path, or what made you open Women in Mind?
Yeah, well, the holistic path was always there. As I say, I was studying health and nutrition when I couldn't do anything else, and then I went into the fitness studio and so on. My mother is a yoga teacher, international yoga teacher, so she's taught yoga all over the world, and taken visitors to ashrams in India very regularly. So she's very much into yoga. So she had a great influence on me, again, from a reasonably early age. And so it's just in me. That is in me. I grew up with an empathy for people with all sorts of problems because of the, you know, my father working in schools for handicapped and so on as well. So all of this kind of was built into me, an empathy for people, a kind of wanting to help people. And so, well, Women in Mind came after the tsunami, which was a pretty profound 6 months in my life as well, which I'll tell you about if you're interested in at some point. But yeah, Women in Mind, it was literally born out of a wanting to give to people a space, a local space where they could come, they could either relax, they could take in holistic therapies, they could take in beauty therapies, and we actually made a space, as you know, a kind of fitness area for ladies who didn't really feel they wanted to go to a normal gym. They would feel uncomfortable. They could come to a nice, comfortable space where they could work out. And I learned a lot from that, to be honest. A huge amount. I met yourself and lots of incredible therapists, and learned about some therapies I've never heard. One thing I hadn't mentioned, most of my life, my adult life, I'd also suffered from very severe migraines. A couple of times the doctors thought they were meningitis, it was so bad. And having kind of gone through lots and lots of different therapies, I found Jan Cafero, who is the bone therapist, who actually put the migraines to bed actually for good in the end, which is marvelous. So
wow,
lots and lots of fabulous things. But the cafe there was another one of my passions. I love cooking, but healthy food. And again, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a cafe for people to come. It was that could have the odd cake and things, but for everyone to be included, so that people, and back then this was difficult, you couldn't, if you were gluten intolerant or dairy intolerant, you couldn't really find anywhere, and people are so emotional. They come to the counter and see these things that they could actually eat that looked normal, but everyone else was eating, that they could have, but we would do gluten-free and dairy-free. It's quite normal now, but back in those days, it was difficult to find. So all of these things, it was just everything came together in that store. But I have to say, I probably took on too much. And I know that, I think it was Jan that used to say to me, she said, Carmen, I can see you looking very calm on the outside, but I think you're working very too hard on the inside. And I did crash. So, I left it to Laura actually for a while. And wow, it was only, 15 years ago now. And I thought, I'm probably going to retire, let's have a rest now. But then along came, only 3 years ago, came the idea of health coaching, which is doing the same thing really, but in a different way. So offering health and well-being advice to people, but in a different way to the store. So.
And you do that all over the world, don't you? You have clients all over the world doing that. I mean, I think it's, absolutely amazing. And I'm sure they love you because, you're such a giver and such a caring person. So, that must feel really good when, I'm taking it, these are clients who work in the workplace, because it's mainly businesses that you deal with. So they're people that work for a company, and for whatever the reason, they may be off sick or have some problems, and the HR company department contact you and say, can you help this person deal with whatever they're dealing with? And you do that either on Skype calls or online, and then you're giving all sorts of advice. What sort of advice do you give these people? What sort of problems do these people have?
Well, there's a whole host. Whatever life can throw at you, you find, but I think the basis of the whole thing is habit change. So I'm actually a habit change specialist. And so what we're trying to do is find the root cause of what has brought people to where they are. So what has caused that health problem? And generally it's the habits that we develop through the course of least resistance, they just build up on us, don't they? And so whatever those habits are, whatever they've caused, then by changing habits to healthier habits can only be, a good thing. And I always think that, 80% of healing is the mind-body connection. So everything is connected, isn't it? And actually it becomes more apparent to people. They don't necessarily believe me when I say this at first. And then when we start doing one thing or another thing, oh yes, I can see now why you were doing that. It had no relevance to me at all at first. And then all of a sudden it's all connecting up, and they realise that, You know, our bodies are literally our minds, our gut, our, you know, everything is connected. So, but it is really, from my point of view, it's about habit change.
So that must be really quite satisfying then, when you've, you know, worked with someone from a company and then seen the results.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's what it's all about. And seeing, you know, whatever the results they want, and you start off finding out what those are at the very beginning of the game, as it were, and then you work towards it. And to see the results as we go through. And then sometimes things they weren't even expecting to get better. Oh, you know, my brain fog's gone. Well, that's amazing. You know, we know it's going to go, but they find it quite staggering. And the fact that, you know, we can go through life, can't we, thinking that this is the way we are, and the way things are for us, our health as it is at that moment, is normal. But we don't know how much better it could be until we lift ourselves out of that. And then we think, gosh, that wasn't good health. That was not good. That was just existing, you know. And so we get people obviously losing weight, which is marvellous, but that's not the be all and end all, because then we people stopping smoking, which is so good. And, you know, just generally sleeping better, less stress, or managing their stress, because all the way through the course they get a kind of, I always say it's like a toolbox we're building together, and for whatever it is that we're doing, the toolbox, they can pull out, maybe it's a new breathing exercise, or breathing that they've never done before, or meditation. It could be anything, but they will end their course with a toolbox of things that they can just take through the rest of their lives, and know that they can deal with situations, and at the same time they've learned a lot as well. So
I know you're doing it very successfully, because you're retained by a lot of companies, and you're also now looking at working with GPs as well, aren't you? You're getting in through that route, and starting to work with GPs who are looking at healthier options for their patients as well, and that's quite exciting, I would imagine, because this is an area that you love.
Yes, I do. Again, another passion, really. Yeah, I think more and more GPs are understanding now that the 10 minutes they've got with a client is nowhere near enough, and that to have someone supporting the patients outside that time is so much better, because you can tell somebody as much as you like to go away, do this, but they invariably won't unless there's a reason to do so, and again, it's about changing their habits, really. But I'm lucky, yeah, I've actually come across a lovely lady who's a functional medicine doctor. She's only in Birmingham, so we've had a lot of meetings, and we've actually put together a business now where we're offering packages, where she is doing kind of consultations, and I'm running through the whole thing with health coaching as well, underpinning it with the health coaching. So that's been very good, very successful. Yeah.
See, I think that's just wonderful, because I think that's, especially at the moment, when a lot of people are faced with fears, maybe fear of the future, maybe loss of income, loss of job, loss of lifestyle, can bring a lot of fears, and they might revert to old habits to try and get them over, maybe smoke more, drink more, eat more, doesn't matter. So maybe doing something like this and getting this off the ground is going to be helpful for an awful lot of people. And I think GPs in the coming months will see a rise in people going to them for stress-related illnesses, and, you know, depression. And so I think your role would become really crucial then, because, as you say, GPs have only got 10 minutes. And they don't really want to be prescribing antidepressants and other tablets. So knowing that they've got you as a backup to sort of support that person, when maybe that person's not getting that support from family or friends, because, you know, first of all, they might not be able to see them. And secondly, you know, it's so easy just to slump into the old habits when there's nobody there sort of, I'm not giving you a little push and saying, come on, how are you doing? You know, I think that's a marvellous path to be on at the moment.
There's a lot of people searching as well for help, which is fabulous, and they're coming across us. And I think, yeah, the anxiety is very high, and of course, stress and anxiety cause illness. So you know, it's again connected. You know, if you're stressed and anxious, you don't digest your food properly. It's that stress response. It cuts off your digestive system. So you can eat well and think you're doing all right, but then these things can, you know, come back and bite you because your digestion's not working properly, etc. So, you know, there are so many people who are stressed and anxious, but we can help them with that. And, you know, often they won't admit either to their nearest and dearest, will they? That's the thing. They just carry on and try to deal with it. And it gets worse if you hide it or try to suppress it. So it's good to get it out and deal with it.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? There was a stigma attached to it at one time when we were younger. There was probably a bigger stigma attached to it. But that seems to be dissipating now as celebrities talk about mental health issues, as royal family talk about mental health issues, as, you know, it's quite often in the news or on radio, you know, how people are dealing with mental health issues. So, I mean, I think that's a great thing, because that will encourage other people who are under stress and are feeling really anxious to seek that help, because there's a lot of help out there. And if they just take that little step, which can be so crucial, but so daunting as well, you know, because they don't know what they're going to expect, you know. So it must be frightening for them. They're already stressed and anxious. And then there's, oh my God, I've got to now try and find somebody to help me, and what are they going to be like? And that would create its own stresses. So it must be, you know, really wonderful when people come to you, because you're such a calm and gentle creature, you know. So for them to come to you and then find that you're this calm, loving soul that wants to just help them, and you know, that's a great, to me, that's probably one of the greatest attributes I could say about you, is that you're such a kind soul as well. And you've never changed in all the years I've known you. But
I think life has taught me a lot of lessons, as you can tell. So I think empathy is, you know, a big thing. So,
yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we all get things in life, and as you say, life has taught you a lot of lessons, but you've learned from those lessons, haven't you? Yeah. You know, it's a difference if you have these lessons and never learn. You seem to have learned, adapted, changed. You know, and it's taken a lot. Well, for me, for listening to what you've had in your life, it's taken a lot for you to make those changes. But that's where this inner strength that you've got, you know, you pull it up from the roots when you have to, and you just go on with it, you know.
Shall I tell you about the tsunami?
Yes, do, because I know that if anybody's watching this, they'll be saying, wonder what that tsunami was. I wonder if you never found it.
Well, you were talking about things changing and dramatically and so on, so I just got to tell you this story really, because so Boxing Day 2004, and bearing in mind I got the 3 young children and big family, so everyone had been with us on Christmas Day and we'd had a busy day. So Boxing Day morning I sat with a cup of tea to relax and turned on the news, and of course it was horrific, this unfolding of what the tsunami had done in Asia. So I was crying my eyes out, as probably most people were. And there was a guy on Midlands today, and he was this gorgeous little Buddhist monk, tiny little chap really. And I thought he was asking for clothes. And I thought, I could fill the car and take it over to Birmingham with, you know, some nice clothes and different things that we could offer. And so I said this to my son, and he said, well, Mum, said Jay, he said, why don't you mention it on Radio Shropshire that you will, you know, do this, take some things over. Somebody might give you things, somebody else might donate and so on. I thought, well, yeah, okay, I've got quite a car full, so I'll mention it. So it turned out I spoke to Jim Hawkins, and as I was talking to him, I was saying, you know, if anybody wants to donate, just let me know. And then by the end, by the end of the day, let's just put it that way, to cut the story short, I had 13 coordinators around the county who were all going to be bringing stuff to me. Okay. The phone was ringing off the hook. And this was just by the end of the first day. The car park where we parked the cars was full. You couldn't see the house because it was just covered in stuff that was being delivered. How this was happening, it was just ridiculous. So I first of all phoned Army Donington to say I wondered if they had anywhere that I could store stuff. And they said yes, that was very sweet of them. So I've got a friend with a big lorry, and he came and collected and took all this stuff to Army Donington. Then it got filled again. It was like this huge train of people coming to my little village. And so I then enlisted. We had to get stuff to Wolverhampton. There was a doctor there, Sri Lankan doctor, said, I've got a container in my yard, so you can fill that. So we filled that. And on the way to Wolverhampton, I'd left Jay in charge of the phones. And he said, Buff, you've got to get back. You can't see the house again. You just got to get back. So it all just carried on like that for a few days. And in the end, I had to phone the council. And I said, look, I have you got anywhere that I could store stuff? And the woman there was so kind, just like that. She said, I've got a unit that's free. She said, you can have it for 6 months for nothing. 2,000 square feet unit. I think it was about that. And so that's where I lived for nearly 6 months. I almost lived there. I was there almost 24/7. It was ridiculous. The place filled and it emptied and filled and emptied. And what we did was we would order these containers to come so we could fill them and send them to Sri Lanka. And when there was one due to come to get filled, and bearing in mind, I don't know if you've ever seen, they're quite high. The floor of a container is quite high. So I'm only 5 feet. So it's really difficult to so I thought, I can't fill this on my own. And I know that Bante, as we called him, the Buddhist monk, and his little young monk friends we couldn't do that on our own. So I would phone the fire brigade. They'd come out, they'd help. Then we'd phone the army again, they'd come and help. And if they weren't available, we'd phone McPhillips, the civil engineers. They sent a gang over. So it was all of this. We had stuff we couldn't send because people were just sending everything. We had stuff we couldn't send. So we got in touch with the International Centre, Telford International. They gave us the International Centre for, the big conference areas for nothing. And we filled that and we raised, I think it was 20,000 on the day, just selling stuff that people had given. It was just, I can't tell you how it happened. I cannot. It was my own tsunami of things that just happened. And then we ended up, a long story short, 8 containers went to Sri Lanka. I think we raised over £100,000 within that 6 months. And we were able to set up lots and lots of lovely little businesses that had lost their livelihoods. I went over there with Bante, the monk, and my best friend, and we opened a nursery that we'd actually funded. So it was just beautiful. It was such a beautiful thing. But you asked me how we did it. I have to tell you. It was just quite amazing. So
you did it because that's you, Carmen. You just got on and do it. I mean, but what an amazing achievement. I mean, and well done to everybody that donated as well. But that just shows you, isn't it, in a world when people can focus on bad news or get caught up in that, there are for every one person doing that, there's 1 million people behind them that want to help, that want to, make the world a better place and do all of that. I think that shows you not only about yourself, but it shows you about the people of Shropshire. It shows you about, we only ever hear bad things maybe about armies and that. It shows you the brilliancy of the fire brigade and, the local companies that helped you as well and offered you space, and the council. So, what an effort, what a team effort as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even a guy who owned a business on the Isle of Skye, how far away is that? He turned up one day in a curtain-sided lorry that he'd driven. He'd stayed overnight. It'd taken him 2 days to get down. He'd collected stuff from everyone he knew on the Isle of Skye. They were all so wonderful. And he brought it down. We had no way of getting it off. So the business next door gave us their forklift truck, and they were emptying it for us. What an amazing thing. And I had to go up to the sky and actually did talk to them and showed them videos of the stuff that was happening in Sri Lanka and so on. But isn't it just beautiful to see how people and even actually through COVID, this pandemic now, the armies of people that are out there helping others, either delivering food, giving support in one way or another. When I had some fabric to give, I thought, what am I going to do? And you know, I found this group of ladies, 2,000 of them, right, making masks and things. 2,000 on this Facebook group that were making masks and scrubs and stuff. It's just amazing, isn't it? People just that's the whole thing, isn't it? You know, the sort of human beings of this planet, regardless of their background or where they are, when they're needed, they will come out in droves to help. Yeah. They really will, and I just think it's fabulous. It's things like that you think, wow, I'm really proud to be a member of this human race, you know, because kindness, I think, is within all of us. And if we have the option and the choice, I think that's the way we would rather live our lives than, you know, be any other way. Yeah, yeah. Well, it comes back in spades, doesn't it? It's lovely. The rewards are just great anyway, but it's just so nice to see. And, yeah. It's just a little story. Fabulous. That's wonderful. Oh, you should be really proud of yourself. And all that came for just having a wee chat with Jim Hawkins on his BBC Radio Shropshire. It's amazing, isn't it? It is absolutely amazing how things can snowball and great help like that. And I'm sure, you know, the people of Sri Lanka still remember you and still, you know, feel great gratitude for what you did for them as well, because what a horrible event to live through, for sure. And you know, doing that and seeing all that and organising that, but that's what you've really done throughout your life, haven't you? When you think about it, you've organised the kids, and then you had your own family and the kids coming over, and then Women in Mind and the therapists, and you know, so you can see that sort of trait through your life. Really, and you're still doing it, you know, through the health habits. So yeah, I just think it's wonderful. I'm so pleased to have you as a friend, and you know, so grateful as well. And I like your cooking too, by the way. Just sort of threw that in there, you know. If people are watching this and they feel inspired to get in contact with you, what's the best way to contact you? Do you have a website? Yes, the healthhabitforlife.com. Yes, indeed. And so also, if they're interested in my work with the doctor, Dr. Gayatri, that's, you know, look up Dr. Gayatri and .co.uk, and she's got all our packages where, you know, we have the doctor's consultations and my health coaching packages as well. So yeah, either of those. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Are you on Facebook? I am under the Health Habit for Life. Yeah, on Facebook. Yeah, I'm learning that. That's great. I'll put all those details under the video when I post the video. Well, Carmen, thank you so much for your time. And I hope you have a really, really fabulous time when you meet your new grandson, because I know that'll be on the cards, and I'm sure he's going to be spoilt with loads of loves and kisses and all sorts of stuff. Of course. It's lovely to speak to you. Nice to see you looking so well as well. Yeah, you know me, Carmen. I just keep going on, just a bit like yourself. So thank you very much, and marvellous inspiration and a marvellous story as well. Thank you. Take care. Thanks.